Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we are going to talk about the cost of database. First of all, my name is Ibrahim Al-Musharraf, and we will first talk about the content of this presentation. First of all, we are going to explain what is database. After that, what is the database management system, and also the types of database. After that, our main subject, that is the cost of database. After that, we will give a brief conclusion. Let's move to the first subject, that is what is database. Database is an organized collection of data, generally stored and accessed electronically from a computer system. Where databases are more complex, they are often developed using formal design and modeling technique. The database management system is the software that interacts with end users, application, and the database itself to capture and analyze the data. Computer scientists may classify database management system according to the database models that they support. Relational database became dominant in the 1980s. These model data as rows and columns in a series of tables, and the vast majority use SQL for writing and querying data. In the 2000s, non-relational database became popular, referred to as NoSQL, because they use different query language. Let's move to the types of database. The simplest form of database is a text database, when data is organized in a text file in rows and columns. It can be used to store, organize, protect, and retrieve data. Saving a list of names in a file, starting with first name and followed by last name, would be a simple database. Each row of the file represents a record. You can update records by changing specific names. You can remove rows by deleting lines, and you can add new rows by adding new lines. Secondly, relational databases are the most common database systems. They include databases like SQL Server, Oracle Database, Informix, and MySQL. The Relational Database Management System, RDMS, feature much better performance for managing data over desktop database programs. For example, they allow multiple users, even thousands, to work with the data at the same time, creating advanced security for access to the data. Thirdly, the most innovative structure for storing data today are NoSQL and object-oriented database. These do not follow the table row column approach of relational database management system. Instead, they build bookshelves of elements and allow access per bookshelf. So, instead of tracking individual words in books, NoSQL and object-oriented database narrow down the data, and you are looking for by pointing you to the bookshelf. Then a mechanical assistant works with the book to identify the exact word you are looking for. NoSQL specifically attempts to simplify bookshelf by storing data in a denormalized way. This means storing it in a large chunk. Moving to our main subject, that is the cost of the database. The total cost of your database will be determined by various factors. First of all, the cost of hardware, the cost of software, the cost of development, and the cost of support and maintenance. All must be considered. Let's move to the cost of database hardware. Very small company might get away with hosting a database on a single desktop PC. This will, however, restrict use of the database to one person at a time. Larger companies where several users need to be able to share access to the database and be able to both view and edit data at the same time will need the database installed on a server, which other computers can access via the network. If you don't already use a LAN network, you will need to set up one. You will also need to make sure your server has sufficient capacity to handle the database. The network installation required to support your database hardware will probably cost at least £250. Although this price is not definitive and may rise depending on your requirements and on the supplier you work with. To safely estimate the budget, to set aside between £250 and £350 for the initial LAN installation, with monthly costs of £20 to £40 added thereafter. Moving to the next one, database software prices. A database for a company normally consists of a proprietary database platform which stores the data points and the relation between them, and front end, which is customized to your particular organization and which allows the retrieval of specific reports and running of specific tasks. Common database platforms include Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft Access, and Microsoft SQL Server. These are commonly charged for via a license per user and a server license. Get these costs broken down in each quote for comparison. For small enterprises, it usually doesn't make a lot of differences which platform you use, so try to find the cheapest. Microsoft Access costs around £100 per user or PC. To discover how much you may not to pay, it is best to speak to a supplier who can explain exactly which cost you will encounter. Speaking to a supplier will also help you to discover the most suitable software for your business or industry. Moving to the third one, database development rates. Database developers will need to design and build the front end of the database so that it meets your organizational particular needs. They will also need to test the database, install it in your hardware, set up and train users, and oversee the rollout to troubleshoot the problems and fix bugs. You will want a quote for the entire job that is broken down into elements so that you can compare prices from different developers. You might also want to ask the developers for a per day or per hour database development price, so that if the job completed in a significantly shorter time, you can ask for an appropriate reduction to be made. Because there are so many different factors that can affect the cost you will pay for development, it might be better to work out an hourly rate, especially if the initial breakdown mentioned above is not possible. As with any profession, the freelance hourly rate for database development varies dramatically. A number of factors should be considered though, with experience and portfolio foremost among your concerns as a potential employer. Although the prices will vary considerably, as mentioned, for an experienced database developer, you will probably want to pay £40 per hour as a minimum. Let's move to the last one and the fourth one, database maintenance and support costs. Your data is presumably very important to your business organization. Otherwise, why consider getting a custom database built in the first place? So you will want a contingency plan in place for when things go wrong. The data needs to be backed up and you must have someone to call to fix problems. Regular maintenance will also keep the database running smoothly. Get detailed prices from the developer under consideration, including standing charges and costs for call out and labor. Although it's difficult to estimate what these costs might be per month, you can make some guesses. Including the £30 to £40 monthly subscription fee, you could estimate ongoing cost of around £150 per month. If you want to include 2 to 3 hours of developer time. So, in conclusion, you can see from this photo the 4 types of costs. First, hardware. Hardware is required to support the other features. In this case, it includes an appropriate network that can cost between 250 to 350 pounds for installation. Secondly, software. Software allows your staff to interact with the database. Database software is designed for ease of use and access that can cost £100 per PC or user. Thirdly, development. Database developers are often needed to put together both the front and the back end of your system. Unless you have an internal expert, you will need to hire an external contractor that can cost £40 per hour. And lastly, the maintenance. There are often monthly costs or else additional subscription fees that you will need to pay to ensure the continued maintenance of your database that can cost £150 per month. So these are the main costs of database. There are, of course, other costs that you must consider. So this is the end of the presentation. I hope you liked it, and thank you for listening.